Well, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Thursday to a beautiful day outside, 80 degrees and a little bit moist. So hopefully it'll dry up a little bit because when it gets moist and hot, it's just miserable. But actually, last night was really quite wonderful. Thank you for joining me this morning. I appreciate it. Yesterday, I pre-recorded, but today I'm live. Yesterday, I went to Phoenix and had a wonderful time with my father. Hadn't seen him in quite a while. He's been struggling with a few things, and our schedules didn't match up. But yesterday, we were able to match up our schedules, so I spent some time with him, and it was just lovely, absolutely lovely. I feel, how would you describe it? I guess I feel full. Is that, because it had been such a hole in my heart. And so I felt full yesterday. So that's about all I can say. Anyway, it is partly cloudy. The clouds are thin and wispy, but it probably will fill up a little bit more tomorrow. And we do have some birthdays. Not today. Today is the 27th, but between now and Monday, let me go over to, where is that? It's here somewhere. Oh, here we go. All right. So on the 29th, which is Saturday, Kevin Bangs and Rick Means, happy birthday to you too. And then on Sunday, Sarah Curley and Eric Hilden. So those are the birthdays coming up. Happy birthday to all of you. May God bless your day together. And let's see. Yes, and we're glad that Dick's surgery went well. That is fantastic. You just never know, right? How surgeries are going to go, but this one apparently went well. So we're happy about that. So let's go ahead and get into our study. We finished off yesterday with the artifacts, the utensils, the furnishings that go in the temple. And we've seen how the temple is broken up into two places. You've got the Holy of Holies with a door, and inside the Holy of Holies, you've got these big, huge statues, 20 feet tall, touching each other and touching the walls. They're winged creatures. They look like maybe horses, or we don't actually know what they look like. And then outside of the Holy of Holies, you've got the basin of water. You've got the table of presence with the bread on it. You've got the lampstands, all these different things that are inside the temple. And these were things that were dwelling in the tabernacle, but they will be brought out of the tabernacle. Well, no, these are new furnishings that were brought in. They're brand new cast bronze furnishings. But the one thing that's in the tabernacle that does need to be brought into the Holy of Holies is the Ark of the Covenant. And the Ark of the Covenant contains things of Israel to remember how much God loves them. And so you have the manna from when they were in the wilderness and God provided manna for them. So you have that. You have the stone tablets of the law that's in the Ark of the Covenant. And these are just reminders to the people of God of God's presence. And wherever the people of God go, the Ark of the Covenant goes with them in the tabernacle, this big, huge tent thing. But now it'll be brought from the tabernacle into the temple. And this is a significant event because finally, after being rescued out of slavery of Egypt, after wandering, kind of settling in Jerusalem, and then now the people of God, this is the place where the people, the focus of where the people of God is Jerusalem. And now they've built a temple, and now they'll bring the Ark of the Covenant into the temple, and that's where it will remain. And this is a significant thing because it now means they have a sense of permanency on earth for the people of God. And it would be as if, I don't know, is this, I guess it's Washington, D.C., finally building the Capitol or building the White House or building something, the National Capitol. But for the people of Israel that have one God and one temple that has not been built before, this is a significant event. This is probably, since the Exodus, the most significant structure that could be built. And it's going to be dedicated. And then the Ark of the Covenant will be brought in. So this is a major, 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 major thing for the people of Israel. And Solomon knows this. So we'll just have to see what Solomon does to celebrate this wonderful event. So we'll start reading in chapter 8, beginning at verse 1. Then King Solomon summoned into his presence at Jerusalem the elders of Israel, all the heads of all the tribes, and the chiefs of all Israelite families, to bring up the ark of the Lord's covenant from Zion, the city of David. All the Israelites came together to King Solomon at the time of the festival in the month of Ethanim, the 7th month. So the temple was constructed and finished in the 8th month. And so Solomon is going to dedicate it in the 7th month, which is 11 months later. So this may seem strange that he's going to wait 11 months before he dedicates the temple. But if you are doing something big, you have to give a lead time. And he wants to do it in the month of Ethanim. Whenever you plan something big, a year is not a long time. A year is actually about right, because you got to get the notification out to the people. You've got to plan what you're doing. Anything that's worth doing is worth planning well in advance. And a year is a good time. I remember when Jennifer and I were married, I just wanted to get married. It's like, oh, no. We don't just get married. You don't just go down and get married. No, this is an event. And so when we got married, we planned a year in advance. I think I proposed to her in the summer of 85, and we got married in the summer of 86. So that was a year in advance. And it took a year to plan that wedding. You have to find the venue. Jennifer's father, who is a musician, said he would take care of all the music. He would take care of the liturgy. He would take care of the whole entire thing, which was wonderful. He was the director of music at another church. And so he went to the nines on that one. It was, we had a bell choir. We had a brass quartet. We had a vocal choir. We had 2 pastors. We had a crucifer, which is somebody who brings the cross down the aisle. We had, people carrying candles in. I mean, it was, you'd have thought that the King of England was being married. It was quite a production. My sister said that she had never been to a wedding that was filled with as much pomp as ours was. Sorry, I feel like there's an ant on my leg. Anyway, so, and that took a year to plan. And that was just a wedding. This is something 10 times as big. And Solomon, this is like a coronation in England. We just we just crowned the new king of England, King Charles, because his mother died. And that's interesting, because that coronation was about a year after the mother died. So he's king, and he functions as king. From the moment that the Queen Elizabeth died, the King Charles is in charge, but the actual ceremony was 11 months later. So this is not unexpected, because this is an opportunity to go and be as big and as bold and invite as many people and do as many things as you want. I mean, you only get a coronation. Well, it's the first one I've had in my lifetime for the England. So that's how rare that is. And I'm imagining that I'll have a few more before I die, at least one more, because Charles probably won't last as long as I will. So I'll at least see the next generation come into the throne. But anyway, this is big. This is big. So he invites all the elders, all the chiefs of the tribes and the chiefs of the Israelite families. Anybody who's anybody gets an invitation to the coronation, to this wonderful thing. And they all came together at the festival in the month of Ethanim. So let's see. Let's go to verse 3. When all the elders of Israel had arrived, the priests took up the ark, and they brought up the ark of the Lord and the tent of meeting and all the sacred furnishings in it. The priests and the Levites carried them up. And King Solomon and the entire assembly of Israel that had gathered about him were before the ark, sacrificing so many sheep and cattle that they could not be recorded or counted. So it doesn't say where they're doing this, maybe in the old tabernacle. So it looks like they're bringing the tabernacle and all the furnishings up to the temple. And the bringing of of these furnishings are carried by the priests and the Levites. So only the priests and the Levites are carrying all these things up to the temple. And he assembles everybody, and then they begin the party. And the party is sacrificing so many sheep and goats and everything that you can't count them. That must have been just amazing, absolutely amazing. And remember that Israel, at its root, was a shepherding society. What sustained them, and probably a lot of other people too, because you got to have food. The two types of food you eat are crops and animals, right? But Israel was known as being a shepherd community, and so they had lots of sheep and goats and animals, and they took a large chunk of them and they brought them in, they sacrificed. When I was young, my grandparents lived in Duncan, Oklahoma. Duncan is just this small town in Oklahoma. And one of the things that the neighboring communities and farms were known for was watermelon. That was what they grew. And every year at 4th of July, they would bring in a truckload of watermelon. And I loved watermelon. I still love watermelon. So they would bring in watermelon to the local Duncan festival. They would purchase, I'm assuming that the town of Duncan would purchase watermelon, or maybe local farmers would just donate it. But they would bring in a truckload. I mean, a truckload of watermelon is a lot. And the truck would open and they'd start bringing out the watermelon. And basically they would cut the watermelon into fourths and just start handing it out. And so you'd go up to the truck, you grab a watermelon. And I remember grabbing a watermelon and with my grandfather, and I started eating it. And, you know, you eat the core of the watermelon, which is just the tastiest part and has no seeds in it. And then you start eating around where the seeds are. So I'm eating it, and then I'm eating the seeds. My grandfather looks at me and goes, "Don't eat the seeds." I said, "What do you mean don't eat the seeds?" He goes, "Throw that away and get another one." Because apparently there's so much watermelon, you can just eat the heart and throw away the rest of it. I thought that was a waste of food, but this is what happens when you're in a festival and everybody gets to have the best of the best. And there's this celebration of joy. And so I did. I mean, I went and grabbed a watermelon, I ate the heart, and I threw that away, and then I went and got another heart and threw that away. And I think there were so many watermelon left over that they couldn't eat it all. That's how many watermelon there were. Well, that's the sense of what you get here. And there were so many animals, they could just sacrifice them to God, and they didn't even count them. It was a time of overflowing abundance. You know, I read somewhere that the reason why he waited another year before doing this, this is perhaps true, but that it was a year of Jubilee. And if you remember the Jubilee, there was 7 years of seven. At the end of seven, all debts were canceled, kind of things reset. It was called the Jubilee year. And it's quite possible that this was a Jubilee year. It doesn't say that it was a Jubilee year, so you'd have to calculate it. But let's see. Let's verse 6. The priests then brought the ark of the Lord's covenant to a place in the inner sanctuary of the temple. the most high place, and put it beneath the wings of the cherubim. The cherubim spread their wings over the place of the ark and overshadowed the ark and its carrying poles. The poles were so long that their ends could have been seen from the holy place in front of the inner sanctuary, but not from outside the holy place, and they are still there today. There was nothing in the ark except the two stone tablets that Moses had placed in it at Horeb, where the Lord made a covenant with the Israelites after they came out of Egypt. There was nothing in the ark except the two stone tablets. So I guess at this point, all the other things, the only thing that remained, so the manna apparently was gone. It was just the stone tablets that Moses had placed. And of course, the Asheroth poles. If you remember, there were rings on each side of the Ark of the Covenant, and you put the pole through the rings, and then you had people carrying the ark through these poles in the rings. And that was how the ark was supposed to be carried. You'll remember throughout history that if they didn't do that, sometimes the Ark of the Covenant killed the people that touched it. It's the presence of God. It's the Holy of Holies is in the Ark of the Covenant. And so they bring this and they place it in the temple. Only priests. When the priests withdrew from the holy place, the cloud filled the temple of the Lord. And the priests could not perform their service because of the cloud, for the glory of the Lord filled the temple. The glory of the Lord filled the temple. So much that they couldn't even. Now, was this an actual physical cloud that you could see, or was just a strong presence of God in the temple? And so strong that the priests couldn't perform their duties. I'm reminded that this is called the Shekinah glory of God. The presence of God that's so overwhelming that you can't even see God. You can't, the presence of God that is so overwhelming that it fills you, that all you can think about is God, that it's just his presence. And nothing else fills your mind or your heart. It's almost a sense of being in the presence of God that is so strong that nothing else can happen. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you before, but every once in a while, you might, there have been several times in my life when I've just felt the presence of God so strong that nothing else can occupy your mind. All you can do is basically just fall on your knees and worship God. When I was a kid, and the first time I went down to Havasupai, there's an Indian reservation at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. It's called Havasupai. And there's 3 falls. There's Beaver Falls, Mooney Falls, and then the big one, which is called Havasu Falls. And it takes a long time to get down there because you drop, I don't know, a mile down. I don't know. It's a mile. Maybe it's 2,000 feet down and a mile in length. I don't remember. And I've been there since this first time. But you weave your way down. The first time you see Havasu Falls, it's this large falls, and then there are these pools, these calcium pools that are in front of the falls. And it is, I think, it could have easily been one of the natural wonders of the ancient world. It's so incredibly beautiful. And just to be able to stop and see the falls and to see the beauty of something that took hundreds of years to build, and to realize that God created that he created the earth and the heavens, and this is just one small little piece of something that he created. It does fill you with the presence of God. There's no question about it. When Peter was fishing and he came in, and Jesus, after fishing all day and not catching a thing, and Jesus said, "Why don't you go out one more time?" And Peter said, "No, I'm not going to go out one more time." And something about Jesus, Peter didn't know who Jesus quite was yet. So Jesus sends him out again. He goes, "One more time, just go out one more time." So he goes out one more time, and he catches so much fish. You have Peter and James, and then John and Andrew. their friends. So Peter and James and John's Andrew are all out there. And Peter catches so much fish that he has to bring in this other boat with his best friend in it. And it takes the four of them all this effort to get the fish in the boat. And there were so many fish that Peter, just amazing, he goes to Jesus and he gets out of the boat. And it says in scripture that what he did was basically just lay prostrate before Jesus, because he realized that this simple man, this holy man, was more than just a holy man. It turns out that he's the Son of God, right? That he is God. And when Peter realizes this, it changes his life, and he decides to follow Jesus for the rest of his life. And this is what can happen when you are in the presence of God. When it finally dawns on you about who God is and what he's done for you, you simply can't help but stop and bow before him and say, I will follow you for the rest of my life. That's what the presence of God does. So when the priests withdrew from the holy place, and they've been in the presence of God before. They've served him. They've done all the priestly duties that they have in the tabernacle. But when they finally bring the Ark of the Covenant into the Holy of Holies, the presence of God is so thick that they couldn't even perform their duties. I can't. I'm in the presence of God. I just need to bask in the presence of God. I need to be here in this moment. That's amazing. And those do happen in times in our life. It doesn't happen all the time. Another time that it can happen for me is in worship. We'll be worshiping, and all of a sudden, this doesn't happen every time. The presence of God, you feel the presence of God in your life. It's like, all I want to do is just worship you, God. I want to be in your presence. I want to serve you. I want to dedicate my life to you. Verse 12. Then Solomon said, the Lord has said that he would dwell in a dark cloud. I have indeed built a magnificent temple for you, a place for you to dwell forever. And so that's what Solomon says. He has indeed built a magnificent temple for you, a place for you to dwell forever. So he built it for God to dwell forever. And God does dwell until the temple is destroyed. And then the Babylonians come in, they destroy the temple, they take all the Israelites, they're exiles, they're dispersed. It's called the diaspora. Then they come back. Nehemiah builds the temple again under a new king, a Babylonian king, Cyrus the Great. And then it stays, the second temple stays until about 70 AD, and then it's destroyed again. And it has not been rebuilt since. So we know where the temple was and is. We have a depiction of what these temples look like. But we don't need the temple anymore, because now the temple for the people of God is us, the church of God. All right, so we'll leave it there. When we get back together again on Monday, we'll look at what Solomon does, because he doesn't just assemble the people and not do anything. He does a big, huge prayer speech. And so we'll pick that up on Monday. But yeah, let's close in prayer. Gracious God, thanks for this day, and fill us with your presence every day of our lives. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so we will end for today, and thank you for joining me. I pray that you all have a blessed day and a blessed weekend. Great worship planned on Sunday, and then we'll get back together on Monday. So have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.